Okay, thank you. Boy, how nice. Are you all on vacation or are you part of the Marcos family? Woo, wow, that's very nice. But I know what you're doing. Back home in Nebraska, we call that priming the pump. Anyway, I'm Johnny Carson, General Electric's hottest appliance. How hot is? Never mind that. Boy, do you make up for last night.
Oh, boy.
Now, I'm I'm not saying that so you applaud, but last night we had, it was just one of those nights. It was they didn't like me at all. In the middle of the monologue, guy went out to a phone to call the Air Force to have me flown out. Anyway, speaking of President Marcos, interesting statistics coming out. Do you know what his salary was as president of the Philippines for 20 years? $5,700 a year. And they estimate his net worth at about $3 billion. So that's why it's important, friends, that you start an IRA account yourself. $3 billion? Yeah. Some of the people, I guess, who are supposed to know, accountants or experts, say that he may have $1 billion in New York City property alone and may move back there. That's what New York needs, another warm, compassionate landlord. Anyway, the new president of the Philippines, Corazon Aquino, took her place as president of the Philippines, which means we now have 3 women leaders running countries. It's Aquino, Thatcher, and Nancy Reagan, of course. February has not been a good month for dictators, right? Duvalier and now Marcos. To be on the safe side today, Khomeini and Gaddafi just made big contributions to the Air Force Academy. In case they have to go there, you see, and fly them out. I want to take my own poll. How many of you last night watched President Reagan's important speech on defense?
8 people.
8 people. How many were too busy watching Alexis and Crystal mud wrestle? Anyway, since you didn't see it, Reagan went on to defend his budget for the Defense Department, and in the next few years he wants something like $1 trillion, $330 billion this year. And the president uses a lot of charts to explain his position, and he painted an alarming picture of the Soviet arsenals, and Ron got so carried away, he even claimed the Russians were ahead of us in charts. Well, yes, he did. I heard him last night. Anyway, do you realize the United States and the Soviet Union, according to experts, we now have enough weapons to kill everybody in the world 8 or 10 times over? Now, look at the bright side. If we wipe each other out, we won't have to listen to those frightening speeches anymore. Too black humor? All right. Would you like to hear some good news?
Yes.
Government economists say the price of gasoline pretty soon will be 75 cents a gallon. No, the bad news is the government economists have never been right yet. So, guess who is on strike in the United States? The sky chefs who prepare those wonderful meals when you fly across the country. Sky chef, yeah, they're on, yeah. The sky chefs said they need more money because the cost of plaster for their dinner rolls has gone up. Where do they get those rolls? Nobody's ever gotten one of those things apart yet. Not easy being a sky chef if you think about it. Yesterday's in-flight meatloaf set off the metal detector at Kennedy Airport. You take food, don't you, sometimes?
Yes.
Some people take their own food. Because you go on an airline and you know you're in trouble when they give you a little tiny complimentary bottle of Pepto-Bismol. All right, here's some exciting news, and maybe not. They say, and when I say they, I never know who they is, but there were reports in the paper that the the mafia, they say, might be involved. And I say might be. I'm only reporting on this. Might be involved in the rock music business and have been pressuring some of the top rock stations to play certain records. Did you hear that? Now, I don't know if that's true. Might be. I turned on the radio today and heard 34 guys singing "We Are the Mob." if there is such a group. Want to start my car after the show first? Here's some more political news. Guess who may run for senator from the state of New York? Harry Belafonte. Said he may run for senator from the state of New York. Now, when you think about it, a man who made his living singing "Work All Night for a Drink of Rum" should fit right into the Senate. I don't know, I'd kind of like to see a senator with a bolero shirt tied at the waist, wouldn't you? Belafonte is running. Clint Eastwood is running for mayor of Carmel. Interesting how George Murphy, senator from California, was. Ronald Reagan was an actor before president. Harry Belafonte may run for senator. Clint Eastwood is running for mayor of Carmel. I'm thinking about, getting into politics myself, and, well, I was thinking of president, but I'd make a lousy commander-in-chief. I've already lost 3 wars, and I don't think I want to. Well, who knows? Anyway, you are in a great mood tonight. We've got a really good show for you. We have one of the funniest young comedians working today, Mr. Garry Shandling, is with us. A young man who was with us a few years ago, who is on a new show called Valerie, Jason Bateman, is here. And a gentleman whose name you may not know, but I saw him on CNN a couple of weeks ago. His name is Joe Newman. And Mr. Newman claims, and a lot of physicists and engineers have backed him up, he has invented a machine that produces more external energy than internal energy put into it, and could change entirely the way we live. It's absolutely fascinating. Mr. Newman is with us, so stay where you are, and we'll be right back. Thank you. No.
Yes.
Simmer down.
Boy, did we need this group to perk things up.
I think this whole crowd is out on probation. They have to have a bed check at about 11:30 tonight. Anyway, nice group tonight. We've got a good show for you. Now, how many, this happens, like I was kidding about last night's audience. I really shouldn't put them down because they may be watching tonight.
We need all the friends we can get.
Possibly not. But a lot of people, when you're doing the monologue, probably sit there, some of you yourself, and say, hey, I could do that, or I wish I could do that for one night, right? Well, tonight, what we did before the show, we went out and asked 3 people from the studio audience if they would like to come down and be me for just a joke.
Right.
To actually walk out through the curtain.
No,
you'll introduce them.
Right.
Go out and stand, as we say, in one.
Right.
And do a joke to about 15 million people. Okay, so...
A great thrill.
So 3 people said they were willing. I have not met these people, and we haven't gone out and hired professional actors or actresses at all. These are just people who came to see the show.
Viewers.
I'm going to call their names if they'll come down here and sit here. Paul Perillo, I think it is. Angela Stein, and our third volunteer is Rod Detmer, I believe. Would you all come down? Or would you? Are you Paul? Thank you. Yes. How are you, Paul? How are you? You're Angela? Hello, Angela. How are you? How are you, Rod? Terrific. Just sit over there. Nice of you to volunteer. How are you, Paul? Where are you from?
New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay. Little Jersey accent, just a little Jersey. You never quite learn that. Lose that, do you? What do you do in New Jersey?
I own a private ambulance service.
Okay. Have you ever done anything in the entertainment business before?
I play the piano a little bit.
Do you?
That's about it, though.
Have you ever thought of walking out, doing a monologue to a big audience?
Absolutely
with
not.
With an introduction and fanfare? All right. Tell you what we're going to do. Bob Lasky has got a cue card. We have a joke on it. Don't read the joke out loud now, because I just want you to see the joke, because later on you'll come through the center curtain You'll go, as we say, to the star spot and do that joke. So just read it over to yourself so you see it, and then he'll have the card for you again when you come out. So you don't have to memorize it.
Okay.
Did you read it? Mm-hmm. You got the joke?
Ready to go.
Apparently you're not too thrilled with that material. But that's your joke. The trick is, even though sometimes the joke may not be a biggie, by your intonation, by your timing, your phrasing, your body language, you can make the joke work, okay? So now when you come out in a moment, they'll be down center stage there right next to the camera with your cue card, okay? You want to go backstage now? Okay.
This way?
Yeah, you can go back through the curtain there, and when you hear your name, you come out. Angela, would you move over here?
Certainly.
Now, we figure since Joan Rivers occasionally hosts this show, we should have a gal volunteer. Where are you from, Angela?
Jacksonville Beach, Florida.
From Florida. Ah, good thing. Okay. What do you do for a living?
I'm unemployed right now.
You're unemployed?
I'm on vacation.
No longer. No longer because you are now working. What did you do before you were unemployed?
I was in management at a hotel.
Management of a hotel. Okay. Is there something wrong with the hotel business right now? Is it quiet?
It certainly is.
Yeah.
The beach.
Is this a vacation for you? Mm-hmm. Have you ever appeared before on a national television show?
No.
Okay, now here is your joke right out here. Read it just to yourself.
Got it.
You understand that, Joe?
Certainly.
Okay. We'll see if the audience does when you come out. Okay, Angela, would you go backstage? You'll be second up tonight. Okay, and our third man is Rod Detmer. Hi, Rod.
Hi.
Okay, and you're from where, Rod?
Recently moved here from Portland, Oregon.
Okay, that's pretty country.
Beautiful.
Doc is from Oregon, right? What do you do?
I'm with Latchford Glass Company. I'm a plant manager.
Okay, have you ever done anything like this before?
No, nothing like
Have you
this.
ever had a fantasy of walking out and they say, hey, here's Rod, and doing some material?
Not really, no.
Well.
No.
All right, now you read this. You're going to set it up. You're going to set it up for the audience response, you see. When you say that, the audience in red will probably say that. And then you come up with a snapper, which is...
That one's going to require a lot of body language, I think.
I think so. That's it. You gotta. And sometimes prayer will help. We have found, Rod. But so you got the joke in your mind.
Got
but
it.
the card will be there. Okay. Would you go back
Terrific.
with the other two? Thank you very much. Now, Ed, I want you to give an introduction. Paul is going to be first, and then Angela, and then Rod. You've got the names there.
Right.
So anytime you're ready, and Doc will give them a short fanfare, and as they hit the mark, just take the fanfare out. Ready? Okay, Ed?
And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Paulie.
Thank you very much. Hi, Ed.
Hi.
Ed and I went out to dinner last night. Never again. You really embarrassed me. After dinner, he asked the waiter for a doggy keg.
Okay. Good stuff. Good.
Very good. Nice fight.
Good delivery.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Angela.
Well, another Californian became an instant millionaire today. No, it wasn't in the lottery. It was at the Honolulu airport. He accidentally picked up Fernando Marquez's suitcase.
Not bad. Okay.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Roddy.
Boy, the weather's been crazy here in California this last week. I need a little more body. Last week it rained every day, and today it was really hot. It was so hot, 3 sushi bars went out of business because all of their fish got cooked. Hey!
It wasn't bad at all. That wasn't bad at all, you know, for not having done this before. How did it feel out there?
Crazy.
Yeah. You ever thought of a career at this?
I knew they couldn't fire me, though. That's why there was no pressure.
You got a backup, right? Okay, I tell you what, we've got a gift for each of you. I'm not sure what these are. I think they're And you what, pen and pencil sets or something for being here? And also, for being such good sports, we have a certificate of membership. This certifies that, and you can put your name here, is officially a member of showbiz. So there you are. Thank you all.
They really got into that.
They got the hang of that too good.
Yeah.
Paul comes on, looks over there. I was so embarrassed. Little Henny Youngman.
High end.
Yeah. Went to my doctor the other day. He says he was in bad shape for 6 months. He talked to my x-rays. Okay, now. Rhythm. Now, last night I mentioned in the monologue, one of the shows resorted to what I think is kind of a sensationalism because it happens to be rating weeks.
Right.
As you probably know with the shows. That's a period of time in which the networks try to get the most viewers, and the network with the highest ratings, up the price of their commercials. Now, for example, today's show broadcasts live from the beach. Did you know that, in Rio de Janeiro? Girls lying around in bikinis in the background, and they called it news. Last night on Dynasty, Joan Collins and Linda Evans were in mud together. They were down in a mud hole. Well, here on The Tonight Show, just to gain a few rating points and resort to sleaze is not the way this show works.
No, never has been.
We try to do, I guess, more cerebral, esoteric,
Sophisticated
type of entertainment. So I pledge to you we'll never resort to mud wrestling. However, tonight we're going to bring you a short exhibition of mud chess. Woo! Yes, friends, mud chess, one of the most exciting sports on television. And here comes the first move. White opens with a conventional move, pawn to queen 3. Watch this next move, folks. All right, black counters with rook to bishop 3. Yes, we're not going to... Oh, yes. And right, so here comes the famous, I believe now the Sicilian defense is coming up here. One of the girls... Yeah! Look at this, folks. Sicilian defense coming up now. And it looks to me like a checkmate. Yes, black resigns. There you have, folks. Mud chess. Mud chess.
They're still at it.
Tomorrow night, Mud Shakespeare. Our two chess players were Pam Santini and Ginger Miller. Thank you, ladies.
I love that high-class stuff.
Can't accuse this show of lowering its standards.
No.
It's no sleazebag show. In a moment, you're going to meet Joe Newman. I'm looking forward to talking with this gentleman. It should be fascinating. We'll be right back. We are back. All right. My first guest tonight, Joe Newman, is from Loosedale, Mississippi, and he makes his living as an inventor. And he has been in the news quite recently because of one of his inventions, which is, well, I'll let him explain what it is, but it's a machine that produces energy and behaves in a way that a lot of scientists says that it goes against all the laws of physics. And what happens, it apparently puts out more external energy than internal energy. And if that's true, it could very possibly change the way science works and our thinking about energy in general. Would you welcome, please, Joseph Newman. Nice to meet you.
I appreciate you having me.
I spent a couple of hours last night reading about you in the newspaper clippings and your battles with the patent office and your machine, and it is absolutely fascinating. And I said, if we book him, suppose he turns out to be some cuckoo bird or something who everybody says has come up with a perpetual motion machine, but that is not it at all, is it?
No, not at all, Johnny. In fact, I started on this because I'm just an old country boy.
Yeah, you say you have no training in physics or mathematics as such.
That's right. And I'm just a physical person, and I just don't believe you get something for nothing.
Right.
Okay, and when I was, I think a lot of people are familiar with the plastic-covered weights. First thing I invented.
Oh, the barbells with
Yeah.
the plastic coverings?
Yeah.
That's your invention.
And I had designed the equipment to make it. And I just scratched up on a piece of paper, carried it to a machine shop. They'd build it, everybody's measurement, things would always work.
Right.
And I said, well, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. Didn't have any doubt about it.
Right.
So I started reading as many books as I could get my hands on. And I picked up a book on energy, read about maybe 4 or 5 pages on Faraday's generator. And when I read that, I remember squirming around just like I did in school, because they were telling me something that's telling me they was getting something for nothing. Because they want to say, if you take a magnetic field.
Now, you're going to have to go slow with this
Okay.
for a lot of. Just
Okay.
pretend a lot of us are chimpanzees. And I remember taking physics in high school and college, but it's been a while. So tell me,
Okay, let me kind of just
start as basic as we can here.
Okay, let me just go real slow with what I saw.
All right.
All right, and I was just, I had no biased opinion.
Right. Now, this is a little horseshoe
Yeah, a
magnet.
little horseshoe magnet, and this is conductor.
Copper wire.
Now, what they stated was if you took a conductor, moved it through a magnetic field,
Right.
the current would go in one direction. Say if you pushed it down, the current would go in that direction.
Right.
Okay, and if you pushed it up, then it'd go in the opposite direction.
True.
And then it said if you flipped the magnet over 180 degrees and repeated it, then when you repeated the test, the direction of the currents would reverse.
Right.
And if you pushed down parallel to the lines of force, no matter how vigorously you moved it, you'd produce nothing. And that just immediately made me stir around a little bit.
Right.
And the other thing that bothered me was that if you could move this wire very slowly, basically at a snail's pace, and lo and behold, the current would take off at the speed of light. Now, that was telling me you was getting something for nothing. I'm just an old country boy, and I want to know how that was going to happen.
In other words, kinetic energy could not take off at that speed
That's right.
without something else being there.
That's right. And I've played a lot of sports, and I've never seen that happen.
Right.
And what they state is that it was like the electrons were like billiard balls. When you move the conductor through the magnetic field, they'd call it an electron. It'd be like it would hit a atom at the end of this wire and push another one out at the end of that wire. But they still had a problem. I'd shot pool as a kid.
Right.
Now, the ball you hit into a stack of balls, the ball that comes off the end won't go a bit faster than the one that hit it.
Right.
So they still had the same problem with me. Now, how are you going to get something to go at the speed of light when you move it at a snail's pace? So I had came to a conclusion. I had no biased opinion. I wanted the conclusions that they were drawing to match the facts. Their conclusions didn't match my facts. Didn't match their facts.
Right.
And I was just reading it. Okay, so I said, the conclusion I had at that time as a young man was that there was something moving in the magnetic field, basically at the speed of light, and it had some kind of mechanical characteristic that caused the observed results. So I said, I'm going to go down and check and see how you make a magnet a magnet. Now, if I find that the strength of that magnetic field is totally dependent upon the power input, I would know I was wrong.
Right.
I would know you couldn't get any more energy out of that system than you put into it. But if I found the strength of this magnet was independent of the power input, I would know I was right, that the energy was coming from the atoms of this material.
Right.
So I went to the library, looked it up. I was amazed.
When you say the atoms of this material, you mean what's going on
Internally.
internally in that field, magnetic field?
Yes, and I didn't know how you made a magnet a magnet. But what I said I'd do, I set up a test for myself. And one thing you do when you invent for a living, you don't want to waste your time. You're not going to be successful if you do.
Okay, now tell you what, we're going to just have to cut away.
Okay.
Then we'll come back and talk about the test. Stay where you are. Physics class will continue in a moment. We are back. Now, if you just joined us, we're talking with Joe Newman, who may well have come up with some new principle. This is kind of difficult for a lot of us to understand because, you're talking about magnetism, energy, kinetic energy, and the forces that kind of control the universe. Are what you saying that you may have found a principle that ties those forces together, magnetism, electromagnetism, and...
Yeah, and I didn't set out to do that, Johnny. I just set out to figure out how, why, and what of things. And to prove to myself that this energy was a real entity, I had to go through and come up with a unified field theory mechanically explaining gravity, electricity, magnetism, inertia, planetary motion, and a new source of energy.
Right.
It took me over 15 years to do that. Now, one of the tests I set up for myself to prove to myself that this energy was coming from this atoms of this material.
When you say material,
Yeah, the material, this material is just iron here. And like I said, I set up a test for myself because I wanted to prove or disprove to myself, not for anybody else's benefit,
Yeah.
for myself, that I was either wrong or right. So I went down, went to the library, and went to the scientific department, and a young lady very quickly went to the card index, gave me about 5 books on magnetism, and I looked it up, and I was amazed how easy it was for me to find it. Now, what it stated was if you took a given volume of iron, say it was this large,
Yes.
and let's say you put X current, this is X current, or X power into this volume of material, and let's say it was made out of iron, it'd produce, let's say, a very weak magnetic field.
Right.
Okay, then it says if you took off a portion of this, and say mixed it with nickel and cobalt, mixed it all together, you got the volume the same volume, then you put the same X power into it. Now, lo and behold, this magnetic field would become tremendously large. Now, instantly, I knew I was right, because what it was telling me was the energy didn't come from the energy input. I kept that power the same.
Right.
The only thing I changed was the material itself. So it was telling me then that this energy had to be coming from this mass of this material, exactly as Faraday's tests themselves had shown me. And then I went further. I said, okay, I wanted to find some additional material, and what it stated was it was relative to atom alignment in this material. If you, it said once you reach maximum atom alignment, no amount of power input would significantly increase the strength of this magnetic field. Now again, instantly, it told me then it had to be coming from this material and not the power input, because if I increase this power by 1 billion times, I would expect this magnetic field to increase by 1 billion times.
Right.
Not true. Once you get maximum atom alignment, the strength of the field would reach a maximum, and that would be
It
it.
has nothing to do with the
Yeah.
internal input.
That's right. So it was telling me consistently. Now, I didn't know how this was going to turn out when I looked it up, but it was because I knew my questions were honest questions, not biased questions, honest questions. I didn't care what the rest of the world was saying. I knew I was right because I could answer my own questions, and the scientific community could not answer my questions. And one of the things that bothered me, though, for 3 years was how do you know which direction that current was going? And it's kind of funny the way I came up with it. Dominated my mind for 3 years. The kids woke me up one morning trying to get a wheelie on their bicycle.
Right.
And I was watching them, and the little kids couldn't hardly get it up. They would get it off 3 or 4 inches.
Right.
And I said, well, if a kid had a bike, would do that to get a lot of fun out of it. So I built an 80-pound flywheel, put it on a 3-wheel bike, and put a positive clutch out of a 30-horsepower motor to it. Kid get on it, build up that inertia in that flywheel. He'd engage it, run in, come off the ground like that, leave black streaks on the pavement about that long. Kid's eyes would get that big.
Now, let me take a jump ahead here, because you put this, what you've really done, you've produced a machine in various sizes, I understand. Some of them
Yes.
weighing a couple 100 pounds up to like 5,000 pounds,
Yeah, 8,000.
which produces more external energy output than the internal energy input,
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah, it was kind of worded this way.
Yeah.
It produces more energy output than externally inputted into the
Right.
system. And you're not creating anything. It's the same relationship that I saw on permanent magnets. Now, prior to this time, it had been taught that a conductor was non-magnetic
Right.
because they had compared it to conventional iron magnetic materials. And they said the magnetic field was simply relative to the current input. Now, that teaching is totally false.
Now, you have a small gyroscope here that we all had as a kid. Explain how this had to do with your
Okay.
development of this.
Okay. Now, what I had on the kid's bike was an 80-pound flywheel. Okay, and I had heard the word that a gyroscope was a stabilizer. And I'd never had a physics course in my life, never had an electrical engineering course in my life. So I'd always go back to the library, do research, and look up what a gyroscope was,
Right.
how to make it a stabilizer. And when I looked it up, I went and bought a toy gyroscope, in fact, and not much unlike this. And what I observed, soon as I started studying the mechanics of a gyroscope, I knew the answer to the question that had dominated my mind for 3 years. How did that current know which direction to go when you moved it up and down in a magnetic field? Why did it reverse? Why is it if you turn the magnet over 180 degrees, it would reverse? Why didn't it produce any current when you went parallel?
Right.
And I'll just try to spin this up. And
All right.
if you hold this, and if you say you pivot this down, it'll pivot to the left. You pivot it up, it'll go back to the right. Now,
Right.
you can hold it right here on this.
Right here?
Yeah, it'll try to jump out of your hand if you do it real
yeah,
fast.
If I want to turn, it wants to go the other
Yeah.
direction, all right?
And if you go the opposite direction, you'll feel it go in the opposite direction.
Right.
And the reverse of this is true. If you had this turned over 180 degrees and you repeated it,
Right.
then the directions would be reversed. If you push them down, it'll now go in the opposite direction of what it did when you had it on this side and
Right.
pushed down. And This was the same thing I saw on a conductor. It matched it exactly. And if you push down parallel on this axis, it will not pivot. Now, that's exactly what I can see on a conductor. You push down a conductor parallel to lines of force, it'll produce no power, no matter how vigorously you move it. Now, what it told me was that there was something moving in that magnetic field, and it had a mechanical characteristic that matched the known facts of a gyroscope exactly.
Right.
So I knew that that action was a gyroscopic action, that it was moving at the speed of light, and it forward at the speed of light, and it was spinning at the speed of light. And again, when I had came up with this in 1968, I was just totally convinced that I was right. And at that time, I had been writing to President Johnson in 1967. Every president who'd been in office predicting this invention would come forward. I started writing with the Atomic Energy Commission, ERDA, National Science Foundation. They'd say, well, Joe, the burden's of proof on you. We
The
have no...
patent office, I remember, wouldn't even come down and look at it, and you wanted them to come down and pay their expenses to come to your place in Loosedale. And I think one of the statements from the patent office was, even whatever evidence you present us, I think would be unable to give you a patent because your device is incapable of operating, all right?
Yeah, in
Which
fact-
is similar what they said, if I remember, to the Wright brothers.
Yeah, they had said the same
At the
thing.
time. They
Yeah,
said
he
we
had-
couldn't give you one because it's impossible for a heavier-than-air machine to fly, right?
They were saying that 3.5 years after they had flown. They were
Right.
still saying it. And that's one of the things that I hope to do, Johnny, is to draw a line so that this type of injustice can never happen again. Because the jewel of our civilization is its creative people. And it started off from that point on when they told me that they didn't think they'd ever be able to give me a patent no matter what evidence I could present.
Have you received a patent yet?
Not in the United States, I have not.
It is patented, I understand, in...
Spain and South Africa. But a lot of the other countries are looking to the United States, such as European Patent Office, Canadian Patent Office, Russian Patent Office, to see
Right.
what...
Do you think your machine, if it can be commercially made available, can, for example, a person would buy a 300 or 400 pound unit and all of a sudden would be able to produce all of the energy they need for their home? Is that certainly within the realm of possibility?
Exactly. I have absolutely no doubt about it, that such a device hooked to a home, a person will never have to pay for energy again. The device will be made small enough to put in an automobile, plane, spacecraft, you name it. This device...
Using the atoms from the magnetic field.
And what you're doing is that you're converting mass into energy on a 100% conversion process. Now, the nuclear reactor that everybody's familiar with
Only has
is
about a 1% conversion.
less than 1% efficient, and that's a result of an accidental discovery of two chemists in Germany. And what's amazing, the Fermi used 400 tons of material on the football stadium in Chicago
Right.
to produce less than a half of a watt. The government put forth billions of dollars, thousands of people to build a bomb to destroy life and property. My government hasn't given me one dime to help the people of this nation and the world on this energy invention. And I worked on it for over 20 years, over 2 decades. And what they have done is take the taxpayers' money and tried to defeat this invention.
We show this little film clip we
Sure,
have?
sure.
Do we have a piece of film? This, I think, is courtesy of station, I'm not sure of the station. I'll find it in one of our...
Yes,
our staff.
WWL-TV in New Orleans.
In New Orleans, to show you what we're talking about. Now,
Okay,
what do we...
that's one of the first prototypes, and that's a 700-pound magnetic rotor, and it's got about 8,000 pounds of wire around it. Now, it's gone down. That unit there weighs 135 pounds, and I showed that at the Hilton in New Orleans. There was approximately 2,500 people attended, 1,000 people outside, and another 1,500 standing to get in. And it would demonstrate something like 25 times more out than externally and put it into the system
You get more wattage out of that than...
what you'd
Internally.
put in. In fact, Railback Battery Company is working with me now trying to design a battery to hold up to this recharging effect of this system. Because not only will it run the device, it'll put more energy back into the battery pack than came out of it.
So you could... That's fascinating. Tell you what, we could stay here all night. We could stay here all night and talk about it, but we really can't tonight. But I wish you well in this. I think it'd be fascinating if it would turn out what you say to be true, because it would do away with a lot of independence on resources that are certainly not finite.
That's right, and it's going to have a tremendous beneficial effect. And it's my total belief it will do more toward bringing world peace and all the kings and queens and politicians that have lived. Congressman Dan Burton of Indiana has introduced a bill into Congress asking Congress to issue Joseph Newman a pioneering patent. So has 4 other congressmen. So I ask the people, if you'd like this invention, call your senators, congressmen, the president, demand it. They get behind it.
Joe, I thank you for being here, and good luck with it. Now, folks,
Comedy time.
there's no better spot for a comedian than following inventor discussing A very highly technical machine. Most comics pray for that. This man can do it, though. Garry Shandling's very funny. He's got his own special on Showtime. He'll be appearing at the University of Georgia in Athens, Georgia, March 11th, and then be at the Punchline in Atlanta the 12th through the 16th of March. Would you welcome Garry Shandling?
Thank you. Nice to be here. I'll be doing some comedy right after we have the surprise quiz on what we just saw. Anyway, it is nice to be here. Nice to see Ed. Hi, Ed. Ed really embarrassed me. We had dinner, and after dinner, he ordered a doggy tag. Boy, it was hot. Does my hair look all right? This is what really concerns me. I know that these audience members come on and they're amateurs and they don't talk about their hair. Hair is what it's about. Does it look all right? Good. My friends say I talk about my hair too much. They say, can't you talk about current events? I said, sure. How does it look right now? Does it look all right now? And I look better in person. Doesn't the audience think I look... Sure, the people at home should remember that television adds 3 to 5 pounds to your lips. And if I look like this. So I moved into the Valley recently because I have no reason to live. And I buy a house in Sherman Oaks because it's like $200,000, 2 bedrooms. My realtor says it has a great view. I said, for $200,000, I better open up the curtains and see breasts against the window, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm in the Valley. I get a jaywalking ticket. I get my first jaywalking ticket of my life. I'm crossing Ventura Boulevard. Cop stops me. It's a weird feeling because I'm on the sidewalk and a motorcycle comes up to you. I thought it was the hair police. You know, I figured it's windy, I look goofy, I'm getting a citation. And the cop stops me and he has no sense of humor whatsoever. You know, he must feel silly, but he says with all the seriousness in the world, you know, you crossed in the middle of the block, you weren't at an intersection, and I'm going to have to give you a citation. I said, well, now, is this going to go on my record, or can I go to walking school and have this taken off? How does this work? I mean, they have no sense of humor about it. I said, if I get 3 of these, do you take my shoes away? What's the deal on it? So, I don't mind getting a speeding ticket. There's a certain sort of macho aura around getting a speeding ticket. And I just got a Porsche because, you know, I'm single. I had to get one. And in the manual, it says, hope you score. And that should be the hood ornament on a Porsche. So I get this car. No. I get the car, and I get 2... First of all, I went from a Toyota to a Porsche. I didn't know what a tachometer was. I swear to God, I thought I was doing 2,500 miles an hour. You know, the cop stopped me. He said, you know how fast you were going? I said, 2,500 miles an hour. I can't believe it myself. It must have got away from me. He said, you want to walk the white line as well now, Garry, all right? And I don't drink at all. At all anymore. We used to get drunk in college and go move the deer crossing sign down a half mile and just watch the deers go. Where the hell's the sign? You could laugh a little. So, and I love animals and everything, and I get 2 tickets. I get 2 tickets in 2 weeks because they follow Porsches. I get 1 ticket for doing 65 on the freeway, which just doesn't seem right, and the other 90 in an alley. But still, you have never seen cats move so fast in your life. They're just out of there. And did you see on 2020 they had a hairless cat? They have now developed a hairless cat, like a hairless dog. It's not attractive, ma'am. And they said we're having trouble breeding it. No kidding. Who wants to be turned on by a hairless cat? You know what I mean? You got to be a real desperate cat there, or looking for some depth, because this is not an attractive thing. Now, I just broke up with actually, I was involved in a relationship with a woman in New York who was unaware of it, evidently. And we broke up because she would blow her nose, and it made that honking sound, which, yeah, I got used to the noise. It's when the geese hit the window that I said, I can't take this anymore. So anyway, It's just there's a lot of confusion sexually. I think it comes from our parents. My mother never taught me about sex. When I was 12 years old, I asked my mom how sex works. So help me, she said, look at the dogs in the front yard. To this day, I'm afraid of being hosed down while I'm doing it. I'm serious. Anyway, thanks so much.
We just have a short time here. What do you want to, what do you want to talk about?
I have this device that gives me 8 times the sexual energy that I put into it, so it's a great thing. I want to thank you, first of all. I haven't seen you since my special aired. You were nice enough to come on my special.
I thought it was funny special.
Thanks a lot. It means a lot to me, and also for letting me guest host, and it means a lot. I feel awkward asking you. I have a date Saturday night. I told this girl you might come over to the house, and if you could just come over and maybe tell her a couple jokes, I know it would really help me out.
I'd be happy to do that.
Are you?
Comedians have to stick together.
That would be really nice. And Tommy, you're still in on that as well?
He'll bring his saxophone and then play some back. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Thank you. You were telling me we just have a couple of seconds. You were a physics major in school. Did you understand?
No, I didn't understand that. I was an electrical engineering major, took 21 units of physics at the University of Arizona, and lost the guy right after he pulled that little magnet out. I didn't know what was going on.
How quickly it goes, right?
Yep.
Hey, thanks for coming tonight, Gary.
Thanks, John.
I'm humbled by that applause.